Live streaming is on.
Hello, Global Theater. My name is Jerry Fielka. It's September 24, 2021. We want to thank the man on the street, Clint Ignatoff, for setting us up in his amazing station, Concern Medicine. Thank you so much, Clinton. It's an honor. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with Nick Santa Maria. Nick, how in the heck are you doing?
I'm doing very well. I can't complain. How you doing?
Real good. It's good to see you again.
Same here. It's been a long time.
Yeah. The first question is, what is the best thing for a human being?
Happiness.
Oh, I like that. Do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
I think one leads to the other.
Yeah. Very good. So, what's your favorite form of information, how it comes into you?
I hate to admit this, but it is now all internet. I basically get all my news from the internet. I don't especially watch news. I read news. I find that most media outlets that read news have an agenda, and it's usually something that, it's very personal on their end, and I'm kind of forming my own opinions and stuff. I find that easier to do when you're reading rather than listening.
Right. But Nick, it implies that you grew up a reader. Did you grow up a reader?
Mm-hmm. Very much so.
Did you grow up a reader because your parents told you to? They were the example, or on your own?
Two things. One, we always had books in the house. So my bed, I was the upper part of a bunk bed. I slept with my two brothers in the same room for a long time. And right next to me, we had this desk with a shelf built on it. And there were all these random history books. And I went through all of them. I went through all of them while I was still in single digits. And then we got the World Book Encyclopedia, and that changed my life. That was my Google.
Isn't that cool? I loved it, man. World Book Encyclopedia.
The best.
So, Nick, why do you think humans collect or gather information?
I think that's a multi-part answer. Some people do it to forge ahead in life, career-wise or what have you. Other people do it because they're seekers and just naturally look and seek. And then others do it for even more practical reasons. But I believe, and if you're talking about me, why I gather information, it's for both those reasons. It's to, share my own knowledge with other people. I love to teach and I love to write. But it's also to further my own curiosity and my own journey, making it more interesting and more knowledgeable.
Really good, Nick. I appreciate you being personal. That's what it's all about. You put all these questions into the context you want. And, when I give you two choices on some of these earlier questions, it doesn't mean the two I've given are the ones that might be your liking. So it's, again, I'm more after your hunch, your guess, your intuition, and your impulse.
Okay.
But it's great. Now, do you think that this need or want to collect information is more innate or more invented by humans?
I think it's more innate. I mean, just looking at evolution and where our brains started and where they are now, I do believe that you're born with a natural curiosity.
Do thoughts create emotions?
Yes.
Yeah. That was good. What I have going is 30 years of asking these same questions. Mm-hmm. So rarely do people go, you came off like that was really good. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Is thinking more innate or more invented?
Again, I believe we're born to do so. We're given the equipment to do so. So in a sense, we are born to do it. It's organic. It's what we are. Unless you're born with a definite disability of some sort, you're curious. You're born. You want to think about things. Definitely.
Nick, fill in the blank. I don't know what I think until I
think about it.
Very good. Can humans think without language?
Yes.
So
I could expound on that, but it's...
Oh, no, go ahead. Expound on it, please. Yeah.
Well, don't you ever, how can I put this? Don't you ever picture something happening in your head where nobody's speaking, and you're looking at something that might happen, or something you might want to happen, or something you're just randomly thinking about? Sometimes it has nothing to do with language. It has everything to do with a physicality, in that sense, you know. And especially people I know who love silent films, especially the silent comedies, they know what I'm talking about. You know, you could picture these things in your head, and these guys were so great because they could transfer that visually to us. So
yeah, and I mean, it even goes into the realm of cinema. The genre I've studied a lot also is experimental film.
Mm-hmm.
You know, cinema was hijacked by narrative. It's only 130 years old. And it basically, after about 20 years, they said, oh, well, no, we have to film plays.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's all we've watched is films of plays. Now they have cool angles or effects, but it's called a moving image art form.
Mm-hmm.
It's like moving image can be you stumbling around in your garden looking at your leaves, and sometimes they're out of focus in the flowers. So it could be colors swirling around, but it is a very interesting thing. We'll definitely get more into film too. But
Cool.
just on this realm of thinking, a couple other things. Chomsky says language is not just words. It's a culture, a tradition, a unification of community, a whole history that creates what community is. How do you cope when language breaks down? When language doesn't work, what do you do?
That's an interesting question. Some people become violent. Other people just become frustrated, or turn it inward and take the brunt of it if nobody's getting what they're trying to put across. I can tell you that when I was in Japan, I spent a month in Tokyo with the producers, the Mel Brooks show, and I found in Tokyo that the buddy I had with me most of the time when we were discovering the city, he had a little book, a little language book that never worked. It was it never worked. So I would be next to him, and let's say we were in a supermarket and I wanted chicken. I would go up to the guy and just go. He took me right to the chicken, and nothing needed to be said. I did that with fish, with everything, and it works.
That is a great example. That's like when I was in France, I'd go, "Parlez-vous anglais?" and they go, "Oui," and then I go, "Where's the bus station?" They go, "Slower."
I love the people that their answer to the problem is to talk louder.
Yeah.
They'll understand me better if I talk louder.
Now, Nick, in your observations of humans, I know it's both and it depends, blah, blah, blah. Are humans more thinking beings or more feeling beings?
My honest answer would be it's a 50-50 thing. I think they're both so prevalent that you can't give edge to one or the other.
Yeah. Beautiful. So Alan Turing asked these two questions in 1950. Is thinking a function of the soul?
Yes. I think everything is a function of the soul.
Yeah.
I really do.
What's another word for soul, or how do you explain soul? What is it?
Your eternal essence.
Wow.
That's how I see it.
What's eternal? You mean eternal, meaning your essence is always there and always will be. What's eternal mean? From
eternal is infinite. It's I don't think our souls are, I don't think they have a shelf life. I think that they're here. We are here to bring our souls to the very top plane and exist there for eternity. Some people call it heaven. I don't know what you call it. I'm not into all those, the names and the labels and everything, but I believe we're here to be better each time we come back,
Really well. The other Turing question is, can machines think?
No. I haven't experienced that, so I cannot say yes. I think that since anything that's man-made is how can I put this? No, I don't think machines can think. I really don't. I think there might be an artificial name for what they do, but I don't think they're thinking.
It's amazing, Nick, because I wanted to answer you when you said, like, you didn't know how to put that into words. And Marshall McLuhan has a great thing. He says what he learned from James Joyce is everything we invent extends some humanness.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we invented, cinema, and most people would say to extend the eye or the ear. He says, no, we invented cinema to extend the foot because we're traveling.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's no right or wrong answer, but it's just this idea of us extending ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So if we invent a computer that appears to think that we're just excited. So this is a good lead into this one is, does the brain more detect consciousness or create consciousness? Like is consciousness there bubbling away and we're just detecting it, or are we creating it?
I think we're creating it.
Yeah.
I really do. I think we're creating it. I think we have a choice there. In fact, we have a knob that we can increase the intensity or lower it, and we're on different levels that way. But I think most of the time it's by choice.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's good. I think Clinton allowing us to turn on this Zoom knob for 90 minutes is enabling us to sort of communicate this consciousness, because we have eye contact and verbal exchange. And it's amazing what Zoom has done is made people, or not made, but one observation I've found is people are more attentive in one-on-one communication.
Isn't that interesting? I find the same thing. I really do. I have to share something with you very quickly, if you don't mind. During this pandemic, I met a woman, a British woman. We fell in love over this way, talking this way every day for about a year and a half or so. We're still, I'm going there in January, but regardless of that, some people say, well, how can you do that? I mean, how can you? I'm like, you know what? We could only focus intensely on each other every time we speak for every single day. How could we not? You know what I mean? How could it not happen? Yeah. So now it's just a case of, getting together in the physical and seeing if we're okay, and boom, that's it. So
amazing. Yeah. It's people don't understand, because I've put on events live in rooms with people sitting around, on chairs for 35 years. And I tell people the Zooms are better. And they're like, oh, they don't want to hear that. They want, oh no, I want to return to, I says, I'm not saying one's better than the other. I'm just saying that there's been some shift in this attentiveness,
Yeah. See, I have to focus on you. I have to focus on you to get what you're saying and respond. And it's not like I'm in a situation where, let's say we're outside in front of a coffee shop and I'm looking at the pretty girl who's walking by behind you while you're talking, whatever.
Hello, that is,
So this is it. You have my attention.
Nick, really, really appreciate you. Nick, what's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
Ooh, depends. If you're talking about Groucho Marx, thought. No, I think I would honestly say that, realistically, light, of course. I've known people I'm pretty quick on the trigger myself in that situation as a comedian. I have to be. So you have to be on your toes. But you go through a process before you get there. Even if it's a split second, you're saying to yourself, is this appropriate? Is this the right person to say it to? How should I say it? Should I say it quickly? Should I let her give me a straight line first? You know what I mean? You're going through all these things in a split second, but it's still slower than the speed of light because you're stopping to think. You have to. Otherwise, you're Trump.
I appreciate that because I declare myself to be a Groucho Marxist myself.
Oh man, he taught me quite a lot throughout my life.
Yeah. Okay, Audre Lorde, the poet, says you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. Yvonne Rainer, another poet dancer, said you can if you expose the tools. What new tool do you suggest?
To take down the master's house?
You can, like all these cute quotes I throw out, you can put them into the context if you want. It's like your choice. It sort of sounds like I'm asking you to, in regards to dismantling the master's house. But in the big picture, what new tool do you suggest?
Your humor.
Either way. Yeah.
Your humor.
Humor. Really good.
The deadliest of all.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What a tool. What do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
Right now, I'm the caregiver for my 90-year-old mom. So I go to bed and I always hope that I'm waking up to someone who's waking up too.
Wow. It's a heavy thing. So, yeah. McLuhan learned from Ezra Pound that artists are the antenna of the race. They're broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions so that we can cope with what we don't like about them. So whether you're doing a musical or you're a comedian or you're a painter or a musician, somehow he observed that they're broadcasting and detecting these hidden unintended consequences of our inventions. But the main McLuhan probe was, well, why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects, even though we can turn to the artist to reveal them to us?
Wow. That's pretty heavy. I think that as I get older and I finally accepted the fact that I am an artist. It's really, I don't know how you feel about it, Jerry, but it took me a long time to just admit that fact, But eventually my brother said to me, an artist is a person is not a person who does things because he wants to. An artist does what he does because he has to. And I agree 100%. So getting back to your question, as I look around and I look at artists, give it to me one more time.
Yeah, it's like, why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though the artists are constantly revealing them to us?
Because I think it makes it easier in day-to-day life for people who aren't of that proclivity, that aren't artists. I think personally, if they dealt with the things we dealt with, they wouldn't be able to handle it, along with all the stuff they've placed in their own lives. To me, I look at I call them normal people. I look at, civilians, and I think to myself, boy, those are the ones doing the real hard work. Those are the ones that are driving to that office that they hate. They're staying there 8 hours, praying for the lunch hour to come quickly. They're praying traffic won't be too bad once they're on their way home, and that they won't fall asleep too soon in front of the television. To me, it's harder work, but an easier choice. You know what I mean? So I don't think people can handle that. I don't think they can handle that extra amount of information as far as what we see, what we deal with, and what we make into palatable art.
Yeah, it's sort of like sensory overload, Nick. I think it's comparable to this sort of theory I have about rich kids start revolutions, like MLK or Malcolm X or Che or Cesar Chavez. Most of them are rich kids, and not rich kids, but they're sort of entitled because they can read the books that explain how they're getting screwed by the man.
Exactly. Yeah.
Then they go to the working class and said, "You're being screwed. Follow me." And they're like, "Fucking A." But then they're like, "Well, we still got to work so we can get our food and live."
They do look for leaders, though. You know what I mean?
Oh
They do
yeah,
look
and
for
I think it's
leaders.
important. It's like you'll love this one. Then Berkeley's in the '60s documentary, great doc. The Black Panthers are going, we heard that Mao's Little Red Book was really good, so we went to Chinatown and bought them for a nickel each, and then sold them to the hippie revolutionaries for $5. Eventually, we read the book. It was pretty good.
Learning in spite of yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
So
Boy,
now this is heavy because we're going to get into satire and humor, but I'm going to throw in humor. But I'm going to throw this one in now. Do artists have a moral obligation?
No, I don't think they do. I'm sorry. Our part of art is that infinite, open-ended, everything's at your disposal. Sorry. And if it is something that seems immoral to others, that's more about them than the artist.
It's great. Nick, there's no right or wrong answers to any of these questions, but that one you got right. and I'm glad you said sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry. That's the way it is.
Okay. Are you more afraid of old ideas or more afraid of new ideas?
I'm not afraid of either.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of most things.
Yeah.
There's really nothing to be afraid of. Let me put it
exactly.
That's my answer. There's nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah. Nick, can you conjure up your earliest memory ever or one of them?
Yeah. Yes. In Brooklyn, which means that I was less than 2 years old, I can recall trying to squeeze my way through our very narrow kitchen to the back door that led down. We had a brownstone in Brooklyn, and we had this little stairway down, just a couple of steps. And we had this long backyard, not wide, but long. And I just remember squeezing my way through while the women were cooking, an Italian family, while the women were cooking. I would squeeze my way through everyone and get to that door, make my way down the stairs, and my brothers would usually be playing, my older brothers. So I have those memories. I remember watching Ed Sullivan in our living room in that same place. I was less than 2. I remember, was it the Animals? Or he introduced some rock group, and I was fascinated because they seemed so bored.
Is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
Good question. Wow. I would say it's more of a blessing, only because it goes along with the theory that you shouldn't erase history because you can't learn anything without it.
Yeah.
So that applies.
Yeah. Nick, tell me this 2 parts. Tell me a role model or someone who made an impact on you within your immediate family and then outside your immediate family. And what specifically was that impact?
Wow, that's a good question. I guess the person that made the most impact on me was my mom. And what was that impact? It was a negative one. It was she taught me that even though you expect something as your right, you don't always get it.
Wow. But how is that wrong? You mean she taught you this
by example?
Yeah.
Okay, how can I put this? I was raised in a family. My mom, by the time I came along, wanted a girl desperately. She had 2 boys already. I came along. She had a very negative, depressed reaction to my appearance. And, you know, my
I
first appearance was, "Hey, here I am." You know? And then she got my sister a year later. So I was sort of, it's like I wasn't even there. So I learned that even though every child has the given right, I'm not going to say God given, whatever you believe, to a mother's love. And that's something that I expected and didn't get. So it was a very difficult thing. So that's my answer.
Wow,
That's what she taught me. It made a negative impact.
Yeah, no, it's really great what you did, and you sussed it out well. Now, outside your immediate family, someone who had an impact on you.
Okay. From my very earliest time, I would say it was my Aunt Mary, who wasn't really an aunt. She was like a dear friend of my parents. As a child, I used to think of ways to break in to find the affection from my parents, mostly my mom. And what I noticed, even from when I was tiny, was that when they had their friends over at night for, you know, cake and coffee or whatever, or family, they would always end up talking about their favorite movies from their childhood. And that was the Depression, you know, it was the 30s, the 40s. And they would laugh, and they always seemed happiest when they were talking about that. And my little mind said, I'm going to learn as much about that as I possibly can. And I became sort of obsessed. By the time I was 8 or 9, I was like an encyclopedia. I was ridiculous. I was reading books. I was talking, you know, my parents' friends would call the house and say, would you tell Nikki to put on Channel 5? Who's the guy standing behind Cary Grant? We forget his name. And I have to go down and turn on Channel 5, you know. So it was my way of breaking in to what they seemed to enjoy the most. But it turned around on me. I became totally obsessed by it, so much so that I got into show business as soon as I could get out of the house. So
amazing. So you were a walking IMDb before the guy invented it. I know the guy who invented it too. It's like, dude, I know a guy who was doing IMDb before you invented it.
I was there before he was. Yeah.
Now this is evident, but did your parents raise you a particular religion?
We were supposed to be Catholic. Typical Catholic Italian family. I learned how to cut church from my brothers when I was in 2nd grade. So wow. I never took it seriously. It never made sense to me. Still doesn't. It's an incredible business, you know. the God business is really, really big. But no, I started skipping very early on. I just wanted to get home in time to watch Abbott and Costello.
Oh, do you pray?
Pray is a ambiguous word to me. Pray to me means to mull over, to consider, to you know, to again mull over. You know what I'm saying? It's not it's not being on your knees and clasping your hands and begging some figure in the sky for, you know, something new. It's thinking about stuff. That's all.
Yeah. If God exists, Nick, what would you want God to say to you after you die?
We've been really looking forward to meeting you. You're a funny guy. We like you. That's what I want to hear.
Do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
I think evil comes from people. And I think that the mind is so complex that we have trouble noticing it sometimes. But it's there. It's there, and it's people. It's not situations. It's people. It's people taking advantage of situations, basically.
Yeah. How do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? And before, I'm going to set it up again with a few modern thinkers' thoughts. Alan Watts says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the mob and the samurais. Keep your friends close and your enemies close. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So it's a lot of thoughts. The basic question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? But first, Nick, how would you respond to the Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
I agree with that 100%. I do.
Yeah.
The more you shine a light on someone, the more they're in the spotlight, right? Yeah. I don't know. I tend to agree with Coppola's is a little, that's a bit paranoid. I mean, that's keep your enemies closer. Yeah, I got to know what's going on. I got to keep them closer, otherwise they'll attack me. If you got to that point in your life, you deserve whatever you get. But as far as the other one, who was the other one? It was I'm gonna forgive, but I'm not gonna forget.
Yeah, Kennedy says forgive them, but don't forget their name.
Yeah. I go along with him, and I'm not a big Kennedy person. I don't like the Kennedys, but I like that. That's true. I always say I forgive you, but I'm not going to forget what you did, because I'd be foolish if I did. Again, it goes back to the history thing.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So James Joyce was the first projectionist in Dublin about 100 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Basically checked out. He said, this is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree? Faulkner years later says, sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
I just watched an episode just now. I just watched an episode of the British version of The Office. I don't know if you're aware of it. It's one of my favorite shows. I can't watch the American version because I'm so in love with the British version. But regardless of that, they were just doing a scene where Gareth, one of his minions, demonstrates safety methods in the office for one of their new employees. And, as I'm watching this, I'm thinking to myself, I've gone through this. People have actually taken me into a room, sat me down, and showed me how to lift a box, where I'd be sitting at a desk and actually filing things, or whatever. He's showing me how to lift a box properly, or where to place a coffee cup so it's safe, and this and that. And I'm thinking to myself, they think I'm like sub-level intelligence or something. They can't just tell me, or whatever. They have to go through this whole show. That's what it's become. We need to be shown things for the most part. And I'm saying I believe it's for the most part. I don't believe everybody needs to be shown. But think about it. It's so much easier. It's so much easier for people. Think about audiobooks, how much more popular they are now than they ever have been before. How many people tell me that they can't open a book and concentrate when they're reading a book? You know what I mean? So they have to hear somebody telling them. It has to be demonstrated, even vocally. So yeah, I think that's it's very human. It's not something I need personally, but I think a lot of people do.
It's really amazing because I'm always recommending new movies to people. And I said, you don't have to spend 2 hours of your life. Just watch a 2-minute trailer on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, but I truly believe that. It's like the Cliff Notes. And if you look, tutorials reign supreme now. You don't have to watch a 6-hour doc, series now. You can watch the 6-minute tutorial on it and get a lot. Now, I understand, that there is a big difference, but it is called time management in the long run.
Yeah, basically. Well, turn on YouTube, go on your home, go on the home button, and you'll see, what comes up. And I see things that, mini documentary, The Life of Fidel Castro, 12 minutes.
Yeah.
What? And there's a lot of those. I mean, we're inundated with that. It's all bits of information, and then boom, this is the sad ending. What? So there you go. I mean,
I am a sucker for that because I didn't watch the 6-hour Soderbergh film on Fidel, and my friend told me the other day it's really good.
Ooh, I bet it is.
So let's walk through your career, because I love your website, which is beautifully designed. Yeah, I
Thank you.
go, what if you're at
That was
a
my
party?
girlfriend, by the way, Noelle Vaughn, and she does wonderful work.
Yeah,
She
I
did it
says,
all.
if you're at a party and someone goes, "Hey Nick, what do you do?" Do you go actor, comedian, teacher, lyricist, composer, film historian, and author? I mean, in general, let's take two of those paths and just walk us through it. Let's take the first that you brought up as laughter, and let's take comedy.
Okay.
So your whole thing of comedy, where did you get? Now I know you're watching TV early on. You're probably going to movies in a movie theater.
Mm-hmm.
Who, you already mentioned Abbott Costello, but who did you see in your early roots for being attracted to pursuing a career in comedy that said, "I want to do that"?
There were two people, but one especially. The earliest one was Lou Costello.
Oh wow.
I saw Lou Costello work when I was 5 years old. I don't remember if it was the TV show or a movie or whatever, but I saw something in me, in him. And I
Wow.
said to myself, it's as if he's performing for me. And he became my best friend. You know what I mean? It's like anytime he was on, I was there to watch him. But it was as if he was saying to me, the most noble profession in the world and the most satisfying profession in the world is to make another person laugh.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, duh. How do I feel? How do I feel the best? It's when I'm laughing. So right then and there, at 5 years old, I knew exactly what I was going to be, and there was no deterring me. And that's what made school so hard for me, because I knew what I was going to be. Don't give me that geometry crap. I don't need it. I'm going to be on a stage making people laugh. I don't need that. So it made it very difficult,
Wow.
to accept. I mean, I think the school system's bullshit anyway, but still,
Right. But it's interesting where I can go with what would you say besides comedy would be your second major? Would you say it's acting, teaching? What path would you say is second after comedian?
It's hard. Writer, I would say.
Okay, let's say writer. So
Yeah.
what did you grow up reading? That's good, because it entails a lot. What did you grow up reading that you went, I want to do that?
Film history. Reading reading Leonard Maltin's first books was the biggest inspiration for me. Here was this kid in New Jersey, writing about this stuff. If he could do it, anyone could do it. I could do it. But the funny thing is, Jerry, is that it went incrementally. I started out, I was going to be a comedian. So I started doing comedy clubs when I was 15. I couldn't go to the clubs I was performing in. You know what I mean? Then I wanted to be an actor. So I started acting. Then I wanted to be an improv performer. So I got into an improv company. You know what I mean? It's like one thing leads to another to another. The thing I love most of all now is teaching. And I didn't get into that until I was in my late 50s.
Wow, this is an amazing path. Okay,
Yeah.
so this sets it up good. So now, before we go into all those like little categories, that was good. A screenwriting teacher told me a great film or great art is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Kubrick says the opposite. Great film is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. What role does intention play in your creative process?
Boy, oh boy. I'd say mostly everything.
Yeah.
I'm serious. Without intent, you don't have anything. What do you have? It has no direction. It has no point. It has nothing of you, So yeah, I think everything.
So then when you're writing a comedy piece, or you're writing like, your musical Real Men, or you're writing a book about film history, how much are you thinking of your audience while you're doing it? Not when you're performing it, or when the book's out. How much are you thinking of your audience? in the creation, in the creative mode?
Actually, again, incrementally, when I first started out in the first half of my life, it was all about the audience.
Yeah.
That's who I thought about. Will they like this? How can I adjust it so they'll like it? As I get older, I do that less and less. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, they'll see it the way I see it, and hopefully I'll make a connection. So it's changed. It's changed a little bit. And it's funny, I think about George Carlin, who went from being this shticky, very funny, but a very shticky, typical comic, to being sort of a prophet, sort of a talking from the pulpit. He was wonderful, and the more he got that way, the more I liked it. The more he pointed to honesty, the more I liked it. It was less about pleasing me and more about him wanting me to know what he thought. And I really appreciated him opening himself up like that. So I'm doing that more and more with my teaching, with my writing, with everything. So I don't know if that's a natural progression. Do you think?
Oh yeah. Well, you anticipated, Nick, a question that I asked later on is, tell me one major element in your pursuits for the last many years that stayed the same, and one major element that's changed.
Oh, interesting question. Very good. Well, we'll wait till we get there, right? So
No, answer it now. It might as well.
okay. Well, I think I answered the second part.
You already answered the second part. Yeah. So
Yeah.
what stayed the same?
So stayed the same would be my longing for appreciation for what I do. I'll say that openly. Without the appreciation from at least someone, it's a very lonely business. You know what I mean? When I do Pseudolus, and a funny thing happened on the way to the forum, which I've done quite a bit. As people walk out, they'll see you, and I don't know if it's my favorite role because it resonates most with me and it allows me to show off what I do best, or it's what I hear afterwards from the people that keep me going. I know that's an ego thing, but it's something that it's kind of like the oil that lubes my engine, Yeah. So.
No, that's really good, because this woman Ruth Draper.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, see, you know it all. Listen to this line she said. I'm curious. The key is to bring the audience up onto the stage and into the scene with you. It is they who must give you even more than you give them in way of imagination and creative power. How do you accomplish that? Like especially when you were doing stand-up more.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can put it in any context, but how do you do that?
Well, let me put it this way. Again, I use these analogies because this is what's closest to me. When you watch Who's on First, right? And we've all watched it, several times. When you watch it, think about it. It's totally convoluted. It makes no sense whatsoever. The setup, the foundation is nonsense. This guy's name is really who? This guy's name is really I don't know. You know what I mean? It makes no sense whatsoever, and we shouldn't be laughing at it because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It's their intensity and their belief in what they're saying. It's their commitment to what they're saying and doing. Two of the greatest actors you'll ever watch. I always compare it to, it's the same kind of commitment Olivier gives to Hamlet. Exactly. So it's all about that. The more you commit, the more you're able to commit, and most good actors can, the more you bring them in and the more they forget their surroundings, that they're sitting in a seat in a building with exit signs. You actually create that illusion with your commitment to the material and to what you're doing.
Dude, I know Lou Costello's creaming his jeans in heaven right now. He goes, "That guy got me right."
I got him. I feel him. I know him. I know the family. I'm, my book coming out in next year is about them.
That's amazing. I mean, really, it's really well put, and you really get what we're doing here. So let's go into humor for a second then. What's the function of laughter?
To relieve the stresses of life.
Yeah. Gurdjieff says it's the reconciliation of yes and no.
That's an interesting take on it. That's an interesting take. I accept that. But for me, no, I think it's. I always say this, and I hope people don't think I'm asexual, because I'm not. But I believe a good laugh is better than anything else, including sex.
Yeah.
When you lose yourself to laughter, there's a euphoria that you can't describe. Just like you can't really put into words the orgasm, how it feels.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with that kind of laughter where you just commit to it totally and just enjoy it, you know?
Yeah. Okay, here's a really doozy. I rarely put this one in. Can you laugh and come at the exact same moment? Not
Yes.
maybe not
Yes.
so much you. Yes. Wow.
Emphatically. Yes.
Emphatic. Yes.
It's been done.
So Steve Allen said, behind every joke, there's a grievance. I don't know every is so important, but just suss out, what do you think Steve is saying? Behind a joke is a grievance.
I think that if you go all the way back to, ancient Greece, and I'm talking about, of course, history goes way back before that, but recorded history, you had your all of the things you see today as far as comedians, stand-up comedians, and them complaining about life and this and that, already been done many, many times, many hundreds and thousands of years ago. So I think it's an innate thing in comedy. Part of comedy is to comment on those things, on those grievances, on those things we all relate to, that we have to go through. Yes, yeah, I believe that. I believe that's a very wise quote. But I think you're also wise to take out every, because it's too much of a generalization, I think.
Yeah, because I was we're interviewing on our podcast a great comedian next week, and I said I was going to start off with like, a horse walks into a bar and the bartender says, "Why the long face?" Behind every joke, there's a grievance. What's the grievance there? It's long. Why the long face? Why are you saying? I mean, that's amazing. Even in the stupidest joke, there is some, you can almost interpret that grievance.
Well, I would say, and like I say, I wouldn't say every, because it is a little too much of a generalization, but most humor is a very funny complaint.
Yeah.
Think about it. Think about W.C. Fields.
Oh,
his whole career. To me, the funniest man who ever walked. But I mean, his whole career was showing us a mirror of the exaggeration of what we all go through.
Yeah.
And there's nothing funnier.
Yeah. My favorite is don't drink water, fish fucking it. which I saw W.C. Fields experts say once. Well, we can't really find it, but we'll let him have the
quote. It actually has not been. It's not one of his recorded quotes. Let's put it that way. I can tell you that for a fact. My favorite is, "It's a funny old world. A man's lucky to get out of it alive." To me, that's just so fucking brilliant. Anyway, the next book is about him, by the way.
Wow, nice, man. You're grabbing onto all the masters. So, what do you think the motive of the cave artist was?
I think the motive of the cave artist was to impress chicks, first and foremost, which is I think every artist starts that way. You know what I mean? Hey, I could do this, and look, she's impressed. I'm going to do it more. So whatchamacallit? But otherwise, I think, again, if you're an artist, it's because you have to.
Yeah.
That guy had that urge. He had to write it down. If there was appreciation for it, all the better.
Yeah.
I think he had to.
Nick, again, it depends, and it's both. What's more important, conviction or compromise?
Wow. Both can lead to trouble, but I think it's more important to choose your arguments and compromise.
Yeah.
If you're dealing with another human being, another person who has their own thought process, you're going to avoid a lot of trouble and still get a lot of what you want. I'm not so stubborn that I have to have exactly, everything that I want.
Yeah. Well done. Again, I always say that there's no right or wrong answers, but that one you got right.
Once again.
You've notched 2 of those, dude. But it is amazing because I'm curious, Nick, where did you get this knowledge of compromise? From the way your parents raised you or on your own?
On my own. I had to deal with other people to get what I wanted. As far as moving along in my career, you can't do it alone. So when you deal with other people, you just have to compromise every so often. Yeah. Sometimes you feel good about it, other times you don't feel so good about it. But
in your accomplishments, how do you rate these 3 elements? Luck, skill, and ambition.
Wow, I have all 3.
Which played the biggest role, would you say?
I would say for me, it was skill.
Then second and third.
Then there was ambition.
Yeah.
And then luck. I think luck is the least of it. I think luck is another word for you being in the right place at the right time, which has nothing to do with luck. We're all exactly where we should be at any given time. So
yeah.
So I give the least credence to luck.
Thank you. T.S. Eliot said, poetry is outing your inner dialogue. What language is your inner dialogue in?
Romantic French.
You really get it. But literally, do you know how to speak French, or you're just Pepe Le Pew?
No, I don't speak French.
You mean your role model is Pepe Le Pew?
Pepe Le Pew. Who I have no problem with, by the way. No, I am inner language. No, it's English. It's English, but it's a better form of English than most people speak.
Yeah, you answer well, because if people say English, then I say, what form is your inner consciousness in? So romantic French, that was good. But isn't it amazing how we were raised with Warner Brothers cartoons and the Three Stooges, and we turned out okay?
Yeah, but, most of us.
I mean,
but I know what you're saying. My brother disappointed me so much. My next oldest brother, he's the only one of us to have kids. So he had a little boy and a girl. And I came over one day with a video of Warner Brothers cartoons. And he went, no. He wouldn't show them to his children. They're too violent.
Oh,
you know? He might take dynamite and put it down her pants. You never know. No Three Stooges, no Popeye, no anything like that. And it's like, oh, that's horrible. How could you deprive them of this stuff? To me, those things are, for most of us, I think Jerry Lewis said, I'm not a huge fan, but he said once, I'm popular because I do what most of us would like to do, but don't, or can't. So the Stooges were that. How many times did we want to take a lead pipe and hit our teacher over the head with it? I don't know about you, but me all the time. So, but I never did it. They did it for me.
It is amazing. I mean, we could really go in a rabbit hole there, but let's keep going on.
So to speak.
Yeah. Couple of experimental film pioneers, George Manupelli, his mantra is ignore yourself. Jonas Mekas says there is no self-expression. And the great jazz pianist Cecil Taylor says, I'm just a vehicle and this stuff just comes through me. Is art making, performing, whatever, comedy, more self-expression or more your vehicle for whatever technology or culture is dominant?
That's a good question. I think you have to be in cahoots with whatever culture is getting you out there, otherwise you're not getting out there if that's what you want. Yeah. So yeah, you have to be friendly with it. As far as self-expression, I think maybe 90% of art is self-expression. I think that if you say that, oh no, this just comes through me, then you're dealing with an entirely different thing. You're dealing with something more metaphysical than, actually human art. If something's coming through you supernaturally, and you're playing what you're being told to play, whether it's physically or mentally, to me, that's not art. It's just kind of like you might as well be reading music, other people's music. Don't you think?
Well, can art making be egoless?
I suppose it can. I don't think it often does.
Yeah.
That's where the self-expression comes in. I want people to know what I'm feeling about this at this time, even comedy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is perception reality?
To you.
Yeah.
That's my shortest answer.
That's good. Why is it so difficult for humans to consider the possibility that life may be pointless? I'm not saying life's pointless. I'm saying, why is it so hard for humans to consider that it might be pointless?
I think the idea of that is so pointless. is so depressingly pointless that people tend to avoid it. I mean, I don't want to know that my existence here meant absolutely nothing, so I think that's why they avoid stuff like that, and that's why the God business is booming and always has been.
Lewis Carroll says, "I believe
one of my heroes, by the way."
Yeah, believe me, he
could have wrote for the Marx Brothers.
Yeah. He said, I believe as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. Have you believed in any impossible things lately?
Let's see. My brother picked up the check the other day.
That was good enough. Let's move on.
Okay. That's my answer.
That was a great answer, dude. Because we didn't get into improv and acting, and I want to leave a little time for that. But Sunra said, the impossible attracts me because everything possible has been done and the world didn't change.
That's great.
So, Moshe Feldenkrais works with healing and movement. He says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength, rather than we're normally taught to overcome a weakness. Tell me a weakness that you've turned into a strength.
Okay. A lot of people might say that my sensitivity was a weakness, but that was something I turned around to improve my art.
Yeah.
You use what you have at hand, whether it's good or bad or feels good or doesn't feel good. And I would say I turned that very, very strong trait in me to something that I look to use as a tool in a way. Mm-hmm.
That's great. Just super lead into it. You use what you have at hand. Mm-hmm. Because I recently watched the Del Close documentary. Have you seen that?
No, I want to though.
Yeah. And, he's sort of a pioneer in teaching improv, and then Viola Spolin and Paul Sills. And, I'd love to know your route in learning improv, comedy improv. Like, did you learn it here in LA at a workshop, or did you go to Groundlings or whatever? But before we go into improv, which route did you take when you started pursuing acting? Or like, I don't know, you could do it in the order you want, but I'm curious because my friend told me it's basically Stanislavski sort of is the godhead for acting. And then there's either Stella Adler, Meisner, or Strasberg. I mean, which route did you go? And then how'd you get into improv?
Okay. Well, yeah, I guess one leads to the other. I am in high school. They had a thing called the Thespians. It was an organization. And I became a member. We moved to Florida when I was going into my senior year of high school, which was very tough, but I got into the drama group. I became, integral to that and whatever. So we had to go to the University of South Florida in Tampa for the thespian convention, right? And it was also the state competition. So everybody showed up from all over the state, all the drama groups, all the best thespians, blah, blah, blah. And we all competed in different categories, something I learned to hate, by the way. I don't like award shows. I hate award shows. I hate the whole idea of them. But anyway, I went in and I did, for some reason, I chose dramatic monologue. And if you do dramatic monologue, you have to pick a classical piece and a modern piece. So I did something from my favorite Shakespearean show from, I did Petruchio from Taming of the Shrew. And then I adapted a scene from Paddy Chayefsky's Marty.
Yes. Wow.
Well, I did it. And it was, immodestly saying, it was really sensational. And the director of the drama department of the university jumped out of his chair and was applauding and this and that. I left. I was embarrassed. I left. I walked away. Everybody, my friends. The next day, we're walking around the campus and a group of the actors that we had seen in a show earlier came up to us and said, "Excuse me, are you Nick Santa Maria?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, we've been looking all over for you. The head of the theater department wants to see you." So they took me to his office. He stopped what he was doing. He came into the office and he kind of begged me to come and study with him at this university. "Please come to our college. I want to work with you. I want to work with you." I looked at him in the eye and I said, "No, I don't think so." I said, "I'm going to New York." So I sort of semi-regret turning that off so cavalierly. It might have been a very nice thing. But so that's the preamble. So I knew I had something. And so I went about it all wrong. I was 18. I moved to New York. I was kicked around. I ended up, collapsing with anxiety and I had to go back home and blah, blah, blah. So the following year I went to LA where it's a lot easier to starve, But, and that was the first place. That was the first time I went to LA. But after 5 years, again, I wasn't really getting anywhere. So I went back to Florida. I decided to become a real person. I was going to join our family business, blah, blah, blah. 3 years later, I couldn't stand it anymore. And I auditioned for what was known as pretty much the second city of Miami. And that was Mental Floss, it was called. This was before the magazine. Oh, yeah. So it was I did it for a while. I did it for a while. This was 1988, and I became one of the guys. I wrote a lot of the sketches. I wrote a lot of the songs. All these things I did as a kid, I brought to this show, and I was petrified to do the improv part. To make it up as you go along on stage. It was like a duck to water. It was like, this is amazing. This is giving me this expression that I never had before. In this group, we had so many different types of people. What I brought to the group was vaudeville.
Right. Wow.
And it still worked. My best character became the most popular. It was called Shecky Weisenheimer, and he was from the Catskills. And these kids didn't know this kind of a act. So it was new, So it was really fun. So that's how I got into improv. It saved my life at that point.
Did they teach you at Mental Floss any of Spolin or Del Close, or was it similar to that?
We used a lot of that. Actually, we didn't adhere to any one method. Right. But we used those principles in our workshops. And as we workshopped, we would get better and better. And sometimes we'd see a scene that would turn into a nice sketch. So we'd turn it into a sketch. But I was never one to go in for labels and stuff. When I lived in LA, the first time I got into Strasbourg, I auditioned for them and got in. I think I lasted like 3 weeks before I turned around and said, It to me, it's like watching Curly of the Three Stooges. You watch one, you've seen everything he can do. Seriously. And he made like 100 of them, With this, they told me what it is, It's memory, it's sense memory. You put yourself in that position, blah, blah, blah. And I'm more of a Spencer Tracy, learn your lines and don't walk into the furniture guy.
Wow. So was Spencer any of those three, Adler, Meisner, or Strasberg? Did they call him a certain, is there a word for his technique?
Talented. He was a natural.
That's great. Talented.
I
wanted to go back, Nick, for a second, because what you just said about Curly amazed me. Because I always say, being in the Frank Zappa world so deeply, I say, if you find a woman who likes Frank Zappa, it's like finding a woman who likes only Curly episodes in the Stooges.
Right. A lot of men's fantasy,
That's how specialized it is. But I saw Albert King right here at the music, right here in, West LA, the great blues guitarist. And I always say, every guitar solo he played was the same, but it didn't matter. Because are you saying the same thing about Curly? Every episode he did was the same, but it didn't matter.
No, absolutely.
They were all brilliant.
My thing about the Stooges is that they weren't meant to be seen 5 in a row. They were meant to be seen one every few months at the movie theater, right?
Oh yeah.
So when I go to a Stooge festival, by the second one, I'm ready to leave because I can't. I'm gone. I'm done. I'm just done. I've seen it all. Thank you. I'll come back in another month and watch it. But I'm I have my opinion. You'll read my books.
Amazing. Okay, so we got another 15 or 20 minutes. This is really fun. Anger can be a productive emotion when.
No, it can't.
Well, let's just move on then.
No. That's interesting. I like that. Go back to it.
Well, go ahead. Fill in the blank. Anger can be a productive emotion when
it is pointed at something that needs anger. How about that? It's true.
Perfect. Now your musical, The Real Men. I thought this question's perfect. What's the most significant difference between women and men, physical aside?
Oh, that's easy. And women aren't going to like what I'm going to have to say, but it's the honest to God truth. And if they deny it, they're lying. Women love to tell you every detail. Men love to tell you the summation of their experience. Oh my God, I just got into an accident. I need tires. A woman would say, so I'm driving and I'm listening to that station. That station that plays those songs that we really like. And, and I'm listening and it's that guy, that DJ we like. Do you know the weather tomorrow is going to be really bad? You know what I mean? And, you haven't gotten to the accident yet. You don't know that, I think that is the main difference. And I have to say, I'm not sure where that comes from. It might be from a sense of insecurity. Because of the way we've looked at women throughout the years, throughout the generations, that they feel like they have to make more of an impression on us by telling us every detail. I'm not going to be popular saying this, but I stand by it.
But it's interesting because there's a cliche. There's two cliches I'd like to tell you that I'm not saying I believe them or not. I'm trying to be open-minded. Well, one is women know, men suppose.
Not sure if I totally agree with that. It's funny because I always tell people, my mom says, whenever I say something that I believe is factual, she will say, maybe, could be, nothing definite, could be, maybe. It drives me up a wall, but I'm saying that but she's a woman and I'm a man. So it's like, there are exceptions, I suppose, to that rule.
The other one is, the word mafia starts with the letters M-A, ma. Women run the world and they let men think they run the world.
I think that's a very, very fair assessment. I think it's very funny when men say, "Oh, I couldn't work for a woman." It's like, since when? Seriously. And and that's the motivation for a lot of what we do. We wouldn't do 90% of the stuff we do if we weren't with a woman.
Yeah. Amazing. So there's this line, you create what you resist. Bob Goldthwait morphed it into you are what you hate. James Joyce said, it's a curious thing how your mind is super saturated with the religion in which you say you disbelieve. Louis Buñuel nailed it. He said, thank God I'm an atheist. So just your comment on this line, you create what you resist. Any comment?
Wow, that's very interesting. I think the bravest artists create what they resist. I think I say brave or courageous because they're able to look at it that closely. You go into the lion's cage and close the door, that takes a lot of balls. So yeah, I would say to a certain extent, not everybody, but I would say that the most intense artists, yes, I believe that's true.
What does courage mean to you now?
Facing death, and not just my own, the people close to me. I'm learning more and more the older I get what that feels like. Yeah. And it really takes getting used to.
Yeah.
Saying goodbye forever is a very, very difficult thing.
Can you forget to die?
Why? Are you seeing gray? I deliberated whether I was going to say that or not. That was that pause. I won, by the way. I don't think so. I do think I watched my father pass away recently, and it's not an upsetting thing. It was he was ready to go. It was time, but I watched him get tired and go to sleep. I know we don't all get that, that privilege of going that way, but I watched him get tired of living, and I think we have our choice of when we go. Yeah. I think we get tired and we just say, "That's it," Yeah. Bye.
Yeah. Nick, this is really amazing. I really appreciate it. On what occasion do you lie?
When I'm asked questions like that. I'll tell you when I lie.
Okay.
Not only I lie during my art, if it services the punchline, but I also lie if I know it will avoid something that's unnecessary.
Yeah.
We have different views on what's necessary and what's not necessary. When you're sure about something like that, it's best to just avert attention, avert it somewhere else, or divert or avert, divert.
Yeah. Well, Tom Waits nailed it. I says, what occasion do you lie? He says, I didn't know I needed an occasion.
But he said it in a much more gravelly voice.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, lying is it's a human trait. I've only heard about one person in my lifetime who never lied, and it constantly got him into trouble. That was Sam Levine. The actor Sam Levine was a totally honest man, and he didn't work a lot because of it. Wow. But no, lying is a very delicate thing. You don't want to hurt anybody.
Yeah.
You don't want it to get out of hand, but it's a good tool sometimes.
Yeah. Actually, this other woman, it's Marcel Proust's question. They ask it at the last page of every Vanity Fair. And so this one woman who dresses the stars, she goes, that's called manners.
Wow.
And it was really a nice way to put it, because people don't want to say they lie. 99.9% of the people I ask don't go, I don't lie. And I recently interviewed the biggest philosopher in Canada. He goes, I don't lie. And I was like shocked. But I think he felt that because he's a philosopher, for some reason he had to say it. Now he has a right to say, I don't lie. One of my favorite was this person says, no, I I lie, but I don't like to lie to myself.
Most importantly.
That is like, but you still lie to yourself. I
Well,
mean, not you, but people still do, you know.
oh, of course they do. Sometimes it's a survival. Sometimes it's a survival mechanism. You know,
It's a way to get a second piece of chocolate cake.
that too. Are you offering? Look at you! Look at you with the ponytail, by the way, Jerry. Huh?
Yeah,
Look at us.
you got an industry ponytail, we call them. Because you know Susie's chocolate cake, you know Susie's cakes are the best. So
Susie can cook. That woman can cook and sing.
Yeah. How do you find peace of mind?
For me, wow, that's a hard one. My obvious answer would be I like to be alone with the things I'm passionate about, which is mostly, old show business and stuff like that. So I will, I no matter where I lived, I always had like a man cave area where I could go and just kind of lose myself in that stuff. And that would be that. But the honest answer, the truly honest answer, would be that I always look at that as a gift that shows up rather than being able to control it. You know what I mean?
Right. Then to pursue it, that
Mhm.
being aware when it's happening.
When it comes to me, I'm the most grateful person in the world, but you could say a million times, I guess I got to keep doing what I'm doing because it comes to me, but it won't always come to you. You know what I mean?
Exactly. If you were walking down the street today, Nick, and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
I would say, stop worrying about what others think about you. You're not as bad as you think you are.
Yeah. Which way should toilet paper come off the roll? Over or under?
Over, no doubt.
Yeah.
That's communism,
Yeah. Well, you've been in Brad K's house because he has a Xerox of the patent next to his toilet. Then it has it going over. And by the way, he's a huge fan of yours. So
you know what? That goes both ways. So
yeah, we're lucky.
He's a master. He's truly a master.
If a publisher was to release your autobiography off the top of your head, what title would it be?
Wow. Wow. I never really thought about this. My favorite is Daryl Zanuck's, the head of 20th Century Fox.
Yeah.
His was, don't say yes until I finish speaking.
Don't say yes
until I finish speaking.
Until I finish speaking.
He's talking to his yes men, And the other one I like is Preston Sturges, was the events leading up to my death. I like that too.
These are good, dude.
Aren't they good?
To my death, because the other one I love is Sam Goldwyn says, as for the critics, don't even ignore them.
His things were the best. He was so funny.
But we could go back to Brad K. He taught me the greatest pickup line ever. You say, is your husband married?
My turn to write.
Wouldn't that be a great title for a book? Is your husband
That's fantastic. Are you kidding? That's fantastic.
Yeah, and, he got it from some old vaudeville guy, but at least Brad is.
There are no original jokes.
Like you and Brad are like archivists. It's like, look at all the great lines are already been written.
Already done.
For us just to find them and regurgitate them because
But Bud Abbott said he said something like there were 7 original jokes and everything else is a variation on those.
Wow.
And it's true. But my book would be In the Time of Nick.
Oh, In the Time of Nick. That is.
How about that?
They want to scent the glue in the binding. What smell would it be?
I would say it would be lasagna.
I love it. Some of the ink would not just be at black. What would be another color of ink on some of the pages?
Blue.
And if a statue was built in your honor, where would you want it displayed, and what would it be made of?
It would be made of Tootsie Roll, and I would have it standing in front of the. Let me think. I'm trying to think what's it would be standing on the spot where the mini cinema in Uniondale, Long Island used to stand.
Oh, how cool.
That's
I want to be your Rochester and go, where you want these Tootsie Rolls, boss?
God bless him. It was just his birthday the other day, and I always post birthdays on my Facebook page. He got the most love. I mean, it was just great. People love Rochester.
Oh, totally. Please tell me something good you never had and you never want.
Something good I never had and I never want. A child.
Nice. I've gotten that answer. That is amazing.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a valid answer. People say, well, if I blah, blah, blah. I mean, the three answers I get the most are heroin, fame, and money.
Wow.
But one of the most influential artists of our time, Mike Kelly, said children. Yes, it's totally bad. Okay. If you were in a vat of vomit up to your neck and someone threw a bag of shit at your face, what would you do?
I would change locations immediately.
That was good, Nick. That was good. It almost rated like this one person said, I wouldn't be in a situation like that. Because if you were,
I might.
Yeah. Well, you would have loved the guy who taught me that. I mean, this guy was like Damien Runyon. He hung out on Venice Boardwalk. He hung out with Billie Holiday.
Wow.
Charles Mingus. He was like just the Alta Cocker Supreme.
Yeah.
And it really is a metaphor for life. We're all in a vat of vomit and people are throwing bags of shit at our face.
It's how you handle it.
What are you going to do? Change location.
It's the old joke. It's the old Sam Kinison thing. You know, you're starving. Move to where there's food.
I needed that. So, Joseph Boyce, agitprop artist, says, make the secrets productive. Lou Welsh is a beat poet, and he wrote he's an ad man. He wrote the great beat poem for Raid, Kills Bugs Dead. How's that for beat poetry?
Yeah, really. Wow, my God. Yeah.
But Lou Welsh said, guard the secrets, constantly reveal them. But it was Thornton Wilder, 1928, said, art is confession. Art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time.
That's beautiful.
Isn't that amazing? Now, Nick, you've laid your cards on the table for 90 minutes. I'm not insinuating you haven't answered this, but what is it really all about for you?
Ultimately, it's all about getting through life, learning enough to get to the next level. Yeah. And that means hurting as few people as you can, and you can't get through life without hurting someone. You know, it's just the way it is. But hurting as few people as you can, by attracting and giving as much love as you can.
Yeah.
And basically treating the universe the way you'd like to be treated.
Yeah.
That's all. You can take all the religions and throw them in the ocean, as far as I'm concerned. Just tell them what I just said, and that's all the religion you need. Treat people the way you'd like to be treated. Treat everything the way you'd like to be treated. And that's all you need to know.
Yeah. Dude, it's amazing because Eden Abez is the first hippie. He was homeless on the Venice boardwalk. He wrote a song called Nature Boy that made Nat King Cole huge.
Great song.
Or help. And he said the thing of life is to love and be loved.
And that's it.
Yeah.
It's about, the Beatles didn't have it wrong either. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's all, that's what it's all about.
Yeah. So what's the healthiest cultural shift you see developing today?
That's a tough one, buddy. I've got a lot of strong opinions about what's going on today, and they ain't good. They're not. I wish I could laugh about it. The minute you tell me that people are trying to erase history, I want out. I want out of here. It's going to be bad. This whole woke movement and canceling culture and all that stuff. You're canceling history. I don't care how unpleasant it is. You know, you cancel that, you've got nothing. You're done. You're done.
Yeah.
But the best change, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, culture? Or one healthy, impactful shift you see developing.
I think I'm sorry, it's the acceptance of minorities in every way. I think that's the best thing that's come from this. I think that we've become entirely too sensitive and we've lost our sense of humor about our different cultures. Do you remember growing up and laughing at, Irish jokes and Italian jokes and Jewish jokes and all these things that are, just that Jewish people would tell me or Italian people would tell me, a lot of people would tell you that's not harmless, that's caused, dissension and it's caused hatred. No, that comes with the package. That comes with you. Yeah. That's you. Intent is everything. And I think we've forgotten that. And, but the best thing has been that my whole life experience of treating everybody the same is becoming a reality in general. I know there's exceptions to that, especially, in certain parts of our country. But I'm just seeing people coming around to the way that I've always behaved. And I feel a little condescended to when I'm told, to hire this person because of their color, or listen more to this person because they're this, or, give the white person the advantage because he's white. We're all people. We're all one. We're all here experiencing the same shit and trying to get through it. That's what I like. I like the fact that we're getting a little closer to acceptance,
Yeah. Well put, because I'm a Polish and Czech. They call me Bounce because I'm one bad Czech. And, I thought it's always good when you can make a comedian laugh, man. Most comedians are like, I'm not, because I like Polish people. I'm Polish, and it's like, did you hear about the Polish carpool? They all decided to meet at the office.
I thought you were going to tell me they all drowned. But no, those jokes are funny, and I don't care who they're pointed at. They're funny, right. And I don't really hate you.
It's like it is like behind every joke there's a grievance. Well, it's a grievance is that I can't be that stupid. I don't know what the grievance is there. It's like we're having fun.
It's fun. It's fun. Oh God, I could tell you stories. We'd need a whole other podcast. So
well, we'll do it. We'll have you on where we have all three of us going at once. We'll do like a comedy or something. Or when your books come out, man.
That'd be great. Yeah, next year. I my co-author's in England, but he's very. I have to recommend. He runs a Facebook page called the Marx Brother Council, and they have a podcast that they do every month, and it's very highly rated, and it's been written up in national magazines. It's called the Marx Brother Council podcast.
Oh my God! Well, hook me up. Send me his email because I want to definitely invite him on to do this interview and to do a podcast with him.
Oh, I will.
What's his name?
Matthew Coniam, Conian. He's quite brilliant.
Great.
And he's not just a writer on comedians. He's written other stuff. He's very good.
Beautiful. Well, Nick, I'm always looking for anybody who will sit and talk for 90 minutes. They don't have to be famous or have accomplishments or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we did a podcast with Brad Kay a couple weeks ago that really went well too. So we dabble in all these, but it's fun to establish the first one with this general interview. So we're winding down now. There's 5 questions Alan Watts asked. They're just really short. So just in a couple words.
Okay.
Who started it all?
Louis Armstrong.
Are we going to make it?
No.
Where do we put it?
The shed.
Who's cleaning it up?
Mom.
Is it serious?
No.
No. That was good, Louis Armstrong. That was like one of the greatest banjo players in the world. I said, who started all? He goes, Jimi Hendrix. I goes, that's a good answer, man. Jimi Hendrix and Louis Armstrong. I think Brad will appreciate that. So in closing, here's the last one, Nick, and I hope we can continue our dialogue and friendship forever. This has really been
course, Jerry, of course.
Really fun.
This has been a wonderful conversation.
Yeah, it's really fun. You really get it. Like, when someone asks, like, can you send me one that it typifies what you're after? I like, this is it. Have fun with it. Don't, you took it serious, but you also had fun.
Yeah.
And that's because that's how we survive.
Thanks, Jerry.
So,
that's very nice of you.
Thank you. And in closing, what gives you the most optimism?
Most people would say, when I see the children playing in the fields, and, holding hands.
Could I just tell you, that's the answer I get 99%. They go youth. They go the youth. And I love it. I mean, that's important. But
I think the youth are spoiling everything. I'm sorry. They're the main reason we're heading out of here. And I stand by that. The thing that, but in reality, it's all about nature to me. It's all about. I know this sounds weird. I'm born in Brooklyn, raised on Long Island, but I could watch animals and nature and what goes on in it and around it, and whatever. That's my hope. My hope is that the human race is obliterated before this planet is completely destroyed, and that the animals are given a chance to just live peacefully amongst themselves and, just sort of make the planet last a lot longer than we would under the same circumstances. Beautiful. I'm going to sort of close out with this little routine that's typifies what I just experienced with you, Nick, Marshall McLuhan loves this joke where the priest is crossing the Canadian border and the custom officer says, "Excuse me, Father, what's in that flask?" And he goes, "Water." So the custom officer takes a swig and he goes, "That's whiskey." And the priest goes, "It's a miracle." So this is what McLuhan said. Communication of the new is a miracle, but it's not impossible. This has been so refreshing and new. Can I give you an alternate punchline to that joke? Yeah, oh, please do, because I said even though we recycled all the great old vaudeville, it has been new. I'll give you a variation. Yeah. He hands the flask to the guy. The guy drinks it. He says, he goes, "No, what is it?" He goes, "It's water." The guy drinks it. He goes, "That's wine." And he goes, "He did it again." He did it again. He water to wine. Okay, this is dueling jokes. So here's the other one to typify what McLuhan was all about. 2 caterpillars are on a branch and they see a butterfly fly by. And the one caterpillar says to the other one, "You'll never get me up in one of them contraptions." That's good. That's so Red Skelton. It's the 2 seagulls. Oh, Red is the 2 seagulls, or Gertrude and Heathcliff. That's like a Gertrude and Heathcliff joke. That's great. That's great. Okay, Nick.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Jerry. I had a great time. Thank you very much. And to whoever's watching, if you're watching, have a great life.
We love you. Thank you, Nick.
Love you,
See
pal.
soon.
Give my love
Okay.
to Susie and to Brad, please. Okay.
I will.
All right.